According to Barna, 95% of all Christians have never won a soul to Christ. Let's change the stat.
Welcome to GoCast, a podcast designed to inspire and equip pastors and leaders to lead soul-winning churches. We have a mission to go and make disciples. This is GoCast.
Hey everyone, welcome to GoCast. I'm your host, Kelly Stickle, and I'm joined by my friend and co-host, Tim Tribble. Welcome back, Tim. It's been a little while.
It's been quite the year.
It's been an interesting year. We have this big, something in between us here, and we had to cut season 1 a little bit short because of something called COVID. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of that or not. I'm sure you all have, and we are so done with it all. But yes, we had to cut our season 1 short, and so we are launching and excited about season 2. But before we get into season 2, we have a couple of episodes to finish off season 1. And first up on the docket is my friend Pastor Juan Rodriguez, who pastors a church in Puerto Rico, planted it in January 2020. What a year to plant a church. But he's an amazing guy. Church is doing great, and this is a great interview. Can't wait to get it. He, in particular, he talks about the call of God and why he felt called to plant in Puerto Rico and to plant a church in many opportunities, but he chose to plant a church in Puerto Rico.
And ended up having a mega church on the first day.
Yeah, and just took off. Yeah, it's a big deal. So he's an amazing guy. Great interview. But in the reference to the call of God, what do you remember the moment you felt the call of God on your life?
Yeah, I think it was a time we were in a city that I grew up in Penticton, BC, and I was leading worship at that point, and I had just come out of a season of my life where I was singing for my own personal gain and hoping for the applause of people. And just in a worship set, I just felt God shift my perspective and say, you're gonna use this gift for me now. And it was just, it happened in a moment, but I'll never forget it.
Wow. It's one of those times, like when the call of God's there, like it's hard to explain to anybody else, but you know that you know that you know
yes,
that's there. And for me, it happened when I was 12 years old. I was actually at a youth meeting. I can remember where I was, what it looked like, the place I was in the building of the church I was in at, and I just felt all of a sudden just something hit my heart real that I was called to ministry.
Wow.
And it is difficult to explain because I knew that was what God called me to do. And it was difficult to explain to my parents even, who wanted me to get a trade or to go to university or something else. And I was like, nah, I feel like I'm supposed to go into ministry. And they're like, yeah, that doesn't pay well. That's not much of a future. And yet here we are. And just when you know.
Yeah.
And oftentimes the call of God does look strange to people on the outside. Oftentimes the call of God requires us to lay down obvious opportunities that would look like an easier path, but often the call of God, well, not often, always the call of God is God's best and works out in ways that we didn't even see when we took that initial step.
So true.
And one story is just like that.
Yep.
So without further ado, here's my interview with Juan Rodriguez from Puerto Rico. Hey Juan, welcome to GoCast. So good to see you, my friend.
Hey man, great to be here. So excited. Thank you.
Yeah, so good, man. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in this whole ministry gig.
Well, so for me, it was when I was 17 years old. I was raised in the Northeast. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. Was born in Puerto Rico. About a year old, my parents moved up to the Northeast. So lived in New York City, Pennsylvania, Westchester area, and then a lot of my life was in Delaware. And at 17 years old, when I was about to open up a nightclub, which is crazy, that's exactly the moment that Christ came into my life. 2 months after I got saved, preached my very first message, got really into the Word of God, really started, seeking Him, became a youth pastor, and then just continue to follow God. It was just an amazing part of my life is that
so cool.
Is that transformation, of a guy that was desiring to open up a nightclub, and now is doing everything, living everything, every ounce of my life I live it for Jesus.
So good. Well, you and I met for the first time at a conference in Florida a while back, and instantly connected. I don't know if you felt that way. I instantly connected with you. I thought, man, this guy is too cool. And we had a lot of fun at the conference and hanging out and getting to know you. But man, you were in the process at that time. You were in the process of planning the church that you just launched. So at the time of this recording, all right, we are like 2 days after launch day of Arise Church in Puerto Rico. So man, launch was crazy. So tell us a little bit about the church.
So Arise Church is, like you said, 2 days old now officially that we're having church on Sunday. But the truth is, I mean, this is something that's been birthed for well over a year, something that God has been working on. We've been kind of perfecting, but this past Sunday we had our very first service here in Dorado, Puerto Rico, and God did an absolutely amazing thing. We had 262 people show up at our very first service. We literally had a completely packed house. There was no seats left, and here's the kicker. Here's my favorite part out of all of this. 27 people gave their lives to Jesus. And that's not just raise hands. That's 27 people that not only raised their hand, but took the time to write a connection card. I am choosing Jesus. So it's like extra dedication to me. So
absolutely.
That was pretty exciting way to start.
That is so good. That is amazing. And I mean, for those who don't know a little bit about Puerto Rico, I mean, that's a mega church in Puerto Rico. Like that doesn't just happen, right? I mean, that's big.
Yeah, no. There's Puerto Rico's a place, and actually there's per capita, Puerto Rico is one of the places in the world that has the most churches, but there's a lot of very small churches. And many of them don't make it past 10 to 15, 20 people, so to have that amount of people at one time, it's an absolute miracle. There's pastors who've been pastoring for 30 years and have never seen a crowd like that. And for God to allow us to see that, I mean, truly humbles us. I mean, we truly have put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to make this possible. And I believe that God honored that. God honored us, taking the time to meet our culture, to meet our people, to take time for people. And that when we finally launched, after being here and planning and preparing, He opened the doors and worked on hearts for it to happen.
Yeah, so good. We'll get into all the nitty gritties and the blood, sweat, and tears. I would like to dig into that a little bit more. Before we do that, so tell us what led you. I mean, besides being born in Puerto Rico, I mean, you never, you spent a very short time there as a child. But why planting a church in Puerto Rico? Because you had the opportunity to plant anywhere in the U.S. if you wanted to.
Absolutely.
Why come back to Puerto Rico?
It was crazy because I graduated from Highlands College, in Birmingham, Alabama, and like I said, I had a ton of opportunity. I had churches literally from all over the country that I was interviewing with, some amazing churches, great opportunities, great pastors, and I wouldn't feel it, and I was like, God, what is it? Why are you not opening this door? And having some conversations with some people, that church. And then greatest part of all was God. I remember it was August 22nd. I'm sitting on my porch, and I'm reading this book, Spiritual Leadership by Oswald Sanders. There's a portion of the book that said, "Do not let your inadequacy stop you from the calling that God has on your life." Wow. And man, I read that portion, and it broke me down. I literally was in tears, and in that moment, I mean, I'm not the kind of guy that says, well, I heard the voice of God, but this is one time that I can say I felt the Spirit of God say to me, I called you to be a pastor and you keep trying to do other things, you know, and I just couldn't contain myself. I was just like, God, only you.
Yeah.
And my wife was taking the kids to school. And when she got home, I tell her this. And, those of us who have amazing, smart, beautiful wives, which I'm blessed to have, which most of the times they're all knowing. And she said to me, I know, so, like you could have told me, I mean, I'm sitting here praying, God, what do you want for my life? And you knew the whole time, but it was great because she said, yeah, I know. And I know that you've known that God has called you, but now is the time. Now is the moment. At that time, we weren't sure it was Puerto Rico. The only thing we knew is that God has uniquely prepared us to be an impact in the Latino community. Both my wife and I are fluent English, Spanish speakers. We're culturally both. I mean, I can hang out with any culture and understand, because I was blessed to be around so many cultures as I was growing up. My parents are true blooded Puerto Ricans. So that means we have family at our house every weekend, and I mean every weekend. We were partying, having fun, food galore. I was just
gonna say that means there has to be some good food going on there.
Ooh, yeah, man. Listen, man. Some of the best food in Puerto Rico, in the world, is from Puerto Rico. Just saying. Not that I'm biased, but I might be. You know what I mean? So Puerto Rico wasn't on our mindset in the moment. We just said, God, how can we make the biggest impact in a place where you have uniquely called us? Not only the calling, but also the life. Sometimes, I believe that your life prepares you for your calling. So God will allow certain things in your life to happen so that you can use that for your calling. And every aspect of our life, things that I consider to be failures were actually preparation for what God was doing. Things that hurt were preparation for what God was going to use to touch others. As we were looking through this, I started looking at stats, and we're part of a network called ARC, Association of Related Churches. And we were looking on their website saying, my wife said to me, I wonder if there's any life-giving churches in Puerto Rico. And we were looking, and we were like, let's look at ARC's website. And we looked, and we didn't find anything. And we just did some Google searches, couldn't find anything. We're like, wow, that's crazy. There's a lot of churches in Puerto Rico, but churches that want to help people take next steps and help people be free from their past and help people, discover their eternal purpose in Christ. And I didn't see a lot of that. So we kind of jokingly said, I wonder, imagine if God would send us to Puerto Rico. We both laughed it off. And the crazy thing was, and then God started working on both our hearts separately. For me, it was all logistics. Puerto Rico has 3.5 million people. There's more people in Puerto Rico than there is than 20 other states in the U.S.
Yeah, wow.
And Puerto Rico is only 100 miles wide by 35 miles tall.
Wow.
The median household income is only $19,000. 44% of the people here live below the poverty line. And I'm like, God, if you want me to go to a place where there's a lot of need, Lord, this is it. And for my wife, it was completely spiritual. I'm thinking about logistics and numbers and all that for her. Yeah. She's like in the car taking the kids to school, and it's literally crying. And she said she was crying, not like a regular cry. She was crying like from her insides, like from deep down inside of her. She said that the tears felt like they welled up from inside of her and would come up.
Wow.
It was just completely an emotional thing. And she said she was like crying for the needs of the people. How can we make it? We've learned so much. We've been through so much to be able to make an impact. And that whole thing was happening separately. I was going through my thing. She was going through her thing. And then we came together one day. We're hanging out, and I said, honey, I can't get Puerto Rico out of my head. I can't get Puerto Rico out of my heart. And then she starts crying. She's like, I don't want to talk about it. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. You're crying. Now you have to talk about it. You can't just leave me like this. And it was crazy because then she was, after about 3 to 5 minutes of her crying, she couldn't stop. She finally said, I can't get Puerto Rico out of my heart either. And that's when I knew. I was like, all right, God, this is it. You're calling us to Puerto Rico.
That's so good, man. That's so okay. So I know there's somebody that's listening that God is starting that process, or God's working there, and they're fighting the call, and they're wrestling with what their call is. All right. So for the prospective church planter, take us from that moment where you knew, okay, we're called. It's to Puerto Rico. We're gonna plant a church. Take us from that moment to where you are now. Just launched the church, and your strategy and kind of that journey.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing when we say yes to God's call. I think a lot of us lack in that faith to do it. You know what I mean? It's hard. For us, we're Puerto Rican. It's our culture, but it's still. I lived here when I was a year old. You know what I mean? So my culture was an extension of Puerto Rico in the States. You know what I mean? So I understood that, what acapuria was, bacalaitos, and all that stuff. And everyone who's listening right now on your podcast is in Puerto Rico. they are literally, there's probably jewel coming out their mouth right now, and I'm sorry, you know what I mean?
My mouth started watering, and I'm not Puerto Rican.
Hey, Puerto Rico has some of the best roast pork in the world, I'm telling you.
Yes.
Oh man, so I digress. But you know, it's scary. It really is, because you're like, God, you know, I'm stepping out, you know, and I'm going to a place where there's some difficulties, there's some hardships, you know, and we weren't going to a place that had a great median household income, that had a great place where, you know, to raise your family. It's going to be perfect. Great school systems. You know, we're going to Puerto Rico, and it's difficult. You know, Puerto Rico is absolutely beautiful, has some of the nicest and most friendly people in the entire world. I mean, to be the way it is, it was named, I think it was in 2011, named one of the friendliest places on earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's true. You're going to find a friend anywhere. You're going to be stopping at the gas station, meet your best friend. You know what I mean? Just out of nowhere. You know, but there's also some hardships, and you have to be able to receive the joy and receive the hardship. You know, because they come hand in hand. So for us, it was a lot of, okay, God, let's get some confirmation, and I want to make sure that this is not just me. I want to make sure this is you. So for us, we saw tons of confirmation, leaders in our lives. Hey, this is, you know, a very hard and strong emotional call. You know, do you think this is right? You know, and for us, we saw confirmation from 5 leaders over our lives. You know, it's our pastor. That's mentors that I had seen in my life, people that had just studied my life, and I had seen, like, they had seen my walk. So I just went up. I said, look, I really respect your opinion. I respect your leadership. Tell me if this is me. You that have seen me, not even directly under me, but have seen me leading in this congregation, leading in this church. What do you see? Do you think this is God? And I did that. I saw confirmation from people in my life, and those that had just seen on the outside of my life, just to make sure that it wasn't just people I was in a relationship with, but somebody who was a little bit outside that can confirm what it was.
That's so wise.
It really. It was funny because my wife and I said, we're just waiting for somebody to say no. We're just waiting for somebody to say no. We can just chill. We can relax, and it's done. Yeah. But it wasn't like that, man. It was like every single person said, yeah, Juan, this is it. This is you. And, you know, and the same thing with my wife. This is you. You're ready for this. You're ready for this.
So good.
And that's exactly what we did. You know, we sought counsel. And like I said, this is not easy. But from the moment that we said yes to God, the doors that he has opened have been bigger than any door that I could ever open myself. You know, there's nothing that I could have done to open the doors that God has opened from the moment we said yes to his call.
That's so good. There's so much wisdom in what you just said, and I just want to just capture it for a moment. Because you and your wife, I mean, together, I mean, you first individually received the call and that confirmation personally. Yeah. Then you checked with your wife so that there was unity between the two of you and got the call just as a couple. But then you went out and you got confirmation from leaders that you respect and that you've allowed to speak into your life spiritually and got their endorsement. That's so vital. And the reason why that's vital is because of my next question, which is, I'm sure it's been all so easy and there's not been any hiccups and there's been no problems in this whole planning process. It's been so smooth. There hasn't been any panic moments whatsoever, which I've planted churches. I know that's a fault. I'm seeing your reaction going, yeah, that's not true at all. I mean, there's some big struggles that come away, and there's moments where you're like, we've missed it. This is crazy. This is not going to work. Yeah. But it's now you're able to, because you got the confirmation from God yourself. You took time to do that. You're confirmed as a couple, and now you got 5 leaders that have spoken in your life and confirmed that. You can lean on that now when you hit the roadblock and saying this isn't going to work. Absolutely. Am I right?
Absolutely. You know, there's been so many times. I mean, here's the thing. We moved to Puerto Rico the 4th of June. From the 4th of June, we have had a political uprising that ousted the governor. You know, there was a time there was 800,000 people marching against for the governor to resign, which he ended up after 14 days of protesting, resigning, which, by the way, is a testament to democracy, where people, you know, there was some issues, but generally it was very peaceful. You know, and people saying, "Hey, we don't want this," but it was still. I mean, it held up the whole island for days. You couldn't go anywhere. It was you didn't know, businesses were closed. Then we had some hurricanes that
Yep.
just luckily just skimmed the parts of the island and was nowhere near as bad as
Yep.
Maria was. But the tensions were up there because after having everyone who had lived through Maria, as soon as you hear the word hurricane, you're in automatically, oh my God mode. Like, help me, Lord, help me, because you lived through the worst devastation in American history. I think it's in cost. It was like one of within the top 10 most devastating natural disasters in America. The hard part about that is 54% of people in America don't even know that Puerto Rico is part of America. So yeah, that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. Yeah.
But then after that, we had since I think it was mid-December, Puerto Rico has been rocked with almost 2,000 earthquakes. Many very small, but some as high as 6. On
Wow,
the Richter scale.
I knew of 2 of them. I knew the 2 big ones, but I was like, 2,000.
Yeah, it has been. It's what they call a earthquake swarm. So the earth literally is trembling, several times a day. So some of them are very small. 1 point on the Richter scale that you can barely feel. 2, 4, and then it goes up to 6, and so it's one of the things that has had the country on edge. So it's been. This is all through this. We're trying to launch a church. You know what I mean? So we're trying to have fun. Hey, come out to our startup event. We're like, they're gonna die. There's an earthquake.
Wow.
But for us, that's part of it. We're trusting God that God's going to do something amazing. We're trusting God, and just like you said, because we had that confirmation. When fear creeps in, when hardships creep in, we're like, but God. God called us. Not only did he call us, he confirmed it. He prepared us. He has put so many things that we can't, we like, now it's to the point that when a hardship comes up, we're like, oh, God's got this, You'll see. Matter of fact, one of the things that we had, we launched Sunday. And through this whole time, we've had issues with the air conditioning unit not working. And we live in Puerto Rico, people. We need AC on launch day.
That's our biggest problem in Canada, too, by the way.
Yeah. Especially this time of year in Canada. Yeah, I know it's rough. It must be rough, man. Listen.
Yeah. It's air conditioning.
You can
that's
at
our
least,
problem.
when it gets really hot, just bring some snow from outside and bring it inside. So we actually, the air conditioning unit was fixed, finished, ready to go Sunday morning.
Wow.
It was.
Back that up a bit, because you and I have been in conversation over the last number of months about this thing. Like it was a battle to just get a location before you even had the air conditioner issue. It was a fight to find the right location.
Oh yeah, it was absolutely crazy, man. Like we got here in June, and I had been looking for a location like June 5th. We started immediately. Looking at places, trying to set meetings up. And let me tell you, man, we live in the Caribbean, and Island Standard Time is a real thing, People will get back to you eventually, So we and me, I'm a go kind of guy. And, so it was just like, okay, I'm going to have some peace at this. It's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. We're going to get through. We're going to do this. But man, and then 1 month went by, and 2 months went by, and 3 months went by. And I'm like, oh my God, you got to do something. God, we had a launch day of January 26th, no matter what, and a lot of churches, they launch in movie theaters, very common. We had the local movie theater give us a quote of $8,000 a month to rent it from 6 to noon on Sunday mornings.
That's crazy.
$8,000. Yeah.
Just put that in perspective. You talked about the poverty level in Puerto Rico. So, this is not, most of the people you're going to reach are going to be below the poverty line. And then, paying $8,000 a month rent for any startup church anywhere in America or Canada is going to be next to impossible. But that's multiplied by hundreds when you're talking about Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
wow.
The average movie ticket at this theater costs $6.25.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when I lived in the States, that was like what, 1993, 1991. That they were that
yeah,
price,
exactly.
So, I mean, so it was one of those things, man. And the location that we got, we actually signed the lease on the 5th of December. So it was like last minute. That now here's a crazy thing though. We got our location is on one of the most traveled roads in Puerto Rico. It
Wow.
literally just is right in front of us. So
Wow.
we can, and we're right on the exit of a major thoroughway. So it's very easy for us to say, hey, we're on this major expressway right here, and everyone knows exactly where it is. So it was even better than we felt.
That's
But
so good.
we needed to do a lot of work. We
Yeah.
worked lots of nights. The day before launch, we left the church at 2:30 in the morning. I went home, took about a 1 hour nap, then got ready, started getting prayed up, getting into, just going over my notes, super nervous, like, okay, God, okay. And all right, we got to get
Isn't
up.
that the
Everybody
biggest
get up. We got
rush?
to go. What's
That's
that?
the biggest rush. That's the biggest rush of any sermon you will ever preach. I've planted a church, and the biggest rush of any sermon I've ever preached anywhere. I don't care preaching it, to thousands at a conference. It doesn't compare to doing that first sermon in a church plant, realizing that all 262 people are judging whether they're going to come and make this church their home on this one message, and you're like, ah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No pressure. That's great. Oh.
Yeah,
That's a big rush.
No pressure whatsoever. Yeah, yeah. And for me, it was like, so we're a bilingual church. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we're preaching in Spanish, and we have translation going on, and people with headphones into English. So I'm like, am I preaching good? But how's my translator doing at the same time?
Yeah. Wow.
So,
Wow.
but yeah, man. But it was crazy because in this building, what you see behind me is a wall in our foyer.
Yeah.
And literally, we put up a kids' room. This wall that's behind me, the foyer. We did walls in the sanctuary to separate where the bathrooms were. Did all new electrical work. Put LED lights in because there was a bunch of old light. Like people when we signed the contract. Our landlord said, so when are you guys thinking of starting? March, April? I said January 26th. And he laughed. He legit laughed, like a belly laugh, like, like, no, man, I'm serious. And he just kept laughing. I was like, okay, stop, you know.
Yeah.
But,
Wow.
man, and what was amazing, though, was to be able to rally our team. Our team, man, I can't say enough about this team that, worked so late. Worked so hard and just knocked it out of the park because they saw this vision of Arise Church, you know what I mean? And we just kept challenging them. Hey guys, you can do this. And man, it was so great. It was great to see all the faces of the new people that came in on Sunday, but it was also so great to see the faces of our team. Because they were lit up seeing what they had done and been a part of. It was amazing.
So good. Okay. So, tell me about somebody that you met on Sunday whose life got changed, that you're sitting there going, okay, all this work is behind us, all the prayer, all the stress, all of what you just, the late nights, all of those things behind us that made all of that worthwhile. Because I know there's at least one, there's a lot more, but there's at least one that you're like, okay, that was worth it.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like you said, there's several, but one that like I said, several. From seeing little kids just with this joy on their face, just happy to be in church, happy to be in kids' church, and parents hugging their kids, like, wow, you had fun at church? That's awesome. But the one that truly marked me, and even teenagers, man, coming to say, Pastor, this church is cool. I like this. You know what I mean? It was great. But there was a lady that came up to me, and she's actually the mom of one of our team members. She was a pastor for 20 years. And she came up to me with tears in her eyes and said, Pastor, you don't understand. I've been a minister for him for over 20 years, and I was about to give up on church.
Wow.
I was like, and she was like, I thought there was nothing else. I thought no one could do and reach people, and to walk in here and see a packed house with all generations and people happy. She says, I couldn't believe it. You gave us hope again. You gave me hope again. You gave me hope that the church was alive. And I mean, just tears in her eye. I mean, so here is a general of the faith, somebody who had been pastoring for years, and she was ready to give up. So this is a pastor with so much faith in God, ready to give up. How many people would be the same, and for her to have faith, man, it gave us faith that there's going to be others, that are like that may not have had the pastoral strength to be able to know His word and to be able to get that foundation, but to be able to just say, wow, it's just like a breath of fresh air, so that's what we're believing for.
That's so good. That's awesome. All right, so let's look forward now. What's your plan now? What are you focusing on for the next 3 months or even the next year?
Yeah, well, I mean, the cool thing is, I mean, we worked so hard just for launch that I'm gonna take a 1 year sabbatical. No kidding.
Hit the beach.
Hit the beach. Yeah, as in Puerto Rico, we got great beaches. Yeah. Everybody, hey, see you next year for our second service. Man, the thing on my mind right now, the biggest thing is team. We want to build a team. So we have a strong team. But to be able to be a blessing to our community, the way that we want to be a blessing to our community, we need to continue to build out our team. So my number one thing personally is to invest in my team, spend time with them, grow them, help them. I mean, we're literally, while we're doing this, my wife is working on an invitation that we're sending out to our team because we want to celebrate them. So we're hanging out with them and just loving on them and just encouraging them. So number one thing on my plate right now is loving, encouraging, and equipping our team. So that they can continue to do the work that God has called them to, along with what God has put on our hearts. And the other thing for us is getting out in this community. We're really big on we want to serve this community. Puerto Rico is going through a lot right now. And we've been looking at the situations. We've been praying strategically how we can make the best impact in our community. So it's just that we want to love on our community. We want to build our team to be able to receive the community that comes in broken, hurt, and busted and disgusted. We want to be able to create avenues for them to get to connect with the church, and for us, I mean, we have a process. We want people to I mean, you probably heard this before. We want people to know God. We want people to find freedom. We want people to discover their purpose. We want them to make a difference. So trying to get people to go through that process, and to grow and to develop that relationship with God so they can then impact someone else. That's the biggest thing for us right now.
So good. Awesome. So, I mean, I know that Puerto Rico's going through a lot. You had mentioned that, and there's a lot of things going on. I mean, not just what's gone on in the last year, but I mean, just they're still in recovery mode from the massive devastation, the hurricanes years ago. So, what role do you see the church playing in the nation as a whole, and for some of the big needs that are very visible everywhere?
I think that's like the church has to get in a different mindset sometimes, and there's I mean, and I spoke about this in Florida where we met. There's a difference between relief and restoration, and the church a lot of times is in a relief mindset. It's like, let's take some bottles of water, let's take some food, and hey, hope you're fine. And the crazy thing is, right now with all these earthquakes that are happening, even not only the church, but the community as a whole is in a mindset of hurricane. But we went down and just and tried to find out and discover what the needs were. And the need that we noticed was the biggest need was emotional. I mean, so the people that are going through these earthquakes right now, and we feel it here, it's this constant fear of when's the next earthquake. So people are literally sleeping outside of their homes. So their house is there, and they're sleeping. There's an empty lot across the street, and they're sleeping in the empty lot. So they're during the day they'll go in their home because they feel like they can run out. But at night, they feel like they can't sleep in their homes in case an earthquake hits, and they get crumbled, while they're there. So there's just this huge tension that's happening. So for us, the church has to respond differently. The church has to look at ways how they can respond. That is, bringing an emotional and spiritual support to people. So there's a lot of people like, hey, how, we can send trucks of water. I'm like, well, they're not thirsty. They just need somebody to talk to. They need somebody to listen, and they need somebody to pray with them. And on top of that, because some people's houses are perfectly fine. It's just fear that they have. And other people, I mean, the work that they need is, I mean, they literally need a new home, but there's thousands of people on the island that from Maria still need a new roof,
Wow.
So for us, part of that looks like, partnering with organizations that we can help the efforts that they've already began. And partner with people that are going to be able to make a longer lasting impression. The crazy thing about that is it doesn't look as pretty in Facebook. It looks prettier for me to show up with a big truck of food, take pictures of it, and leave the food, and then go home. But what we're planning on doing may not look prettier on Facebook, but we're praying that has a longer eternal reward, which is partnering with organizations. We met a school in the southern part of the island that is having their students come in a couple hours a day so they can actually talk to them emotionally about what their emotions are like. Hey, what does it feel like? Talking to their parents. Hey, how can we keep your child on course so they don't miss a whole school year because of these earthquakes,
Right.
But constantly with that fear of what happens if we're here and the earthquake hits, So for us, it's trying to find ways that we can have a longer lasting impact and partnering with organizations and other ministries that are there. I mean, from where the earthquakes are, we're 2.5 hours away, so it's not practical to say we're going to go down there every 2 days to drop off water. But if we can partner with an organization that's doing it, we can help support them. We can help lift them up. We can help their teams. Maybe we can go and spend a day with them and love on them, pray with them, and connect people to maybe even some of the local churches that are there, and not make this about us, but, let go the logos and the egos, so that we can make an impact together for His kingdom.
Man, I love that so much, the difference between relief and restoration. And again, that really is why the church is the hope of the world, because we can offer not just one, but we can offer both, because the hope is Jesus. So, man, I love that. I also love your passion for soul winning churches. I mean, that's one of the reasons why you're planting. But talk to us about this passion and how you plan on making soul winning, I mean, the primary focus in the church moving forward.
Absolutely. I mean, it's that we're an extension of Jesus, you know what I mean? And Jesus' greatest desire is to see people with Him in heaven, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, God isn't worried about us that we're good, Sometimes we make our services so much about those that are already here. Are you enjoying it? Do you like the color of the carpet? Do you like these chairs? That we're not thinking about the person who's coming from the outside. Are they going to like this chair? Are they going to like what our building looks like? Are they going to feel comfortable? We're worried about certain families or certain people in a church. Are they comfortable? Are they okay? Do they have a nice seat? You know what I mean? And for me, it's like, look, I tell my team, if you need to lose your seat for someone who comes off the street, do it. You know what I mean? Get up, have fun. Stand in the back. Don't worry about it. This is your house. You know what I mean? So for us is to make sure that we have an environment for people to be able to come in and know God. So our Sunday services are 100% geared to the person who has never met Jesus. But we also know that the person who really knows God is really going to enjoy the service anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's crazy for us. One of the things that we want to do is we want to empower our team to bring people. And one of the ways that you empower people to bring people is to offer an excellent experience. You don't want to invite somebody to come to a restaurant that you didn't eat good at. If you go to a restaurant and the food was bad and it tasted good and it was smelly and the roof was leaking, you're not going to go to your friend and say, "Hey, man, you should really come to this restaurant. It was really horrible." No, but you go to a place, you go to a place that the food was great, the service was excellent. You're going to tell your friend, "Hey, you need to come and you need to check this out." And the crazy thing is, then if you go with your friends to that restaurant, you sit with them, you're going to the whole time you're like, "Didn't I tell you? It's good. It's good, right? It's good. It's good."
Yeah.
So that's going to be the same. That's the same environment that we want to provide, so that people can invite their friends, and when they invite their friends, they'll be like, "Wow." And we tell our team, look, if you invite a friend, you get the opportunity to, when I make that altar call and I say, "Hey, every eye closed, every head bowed, feel free to keep one eye open and look at your friend. When that hand goes up, you celebrate inside and don't say nothing. Don't go crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But enjoy that moment because it's because of you bringing them in. So we try to create that environment so that, we have people asking us on social media, what kind of church are you guys? Because you guys look different. We do. We intentionally do. We intentionally want to make people feel comfortable and feel welcome. So we go completely out of our way to do things that just to welcome people. We have free coffee, free water, mints. You know what I mean? It's just things that are like, oh, that's simple. No, we all like to be treated, with love. We all have that esteem need, and for us to be able to take care of their people's kids, so our primary mode to evangelize is the church, the local church is the hope of the world, so to be able to have people come in here and get to know God, we want to remove every barrier from that, and so that's like our primary way that we want to get people to know God. And we also want to equip our teams to evangelize, and evangelism is such a scary word for some people. But I mean, evangelizing is simple. I mean, tell somebody about Jesus. You know what I mean? Yep. Invite somebody to your small group. Invite somebody to church. And you don't have to be the preacher. Come here. Don't worry. I'll preach. I promise. I'll preach on Sunday. So it's just know how to be able to love on people and evangelize in a way that it's just telling people about your life, tell them your testimony, tell them what God has done in your life, so equipping them to be able to do that is a huge part of how we want to let people know Jesus.
So good, man. This has been so awesome. I so appreciate your time. So excited for you. Man. And excited to see what God's going to be doing in the future. Man, is there anything that I should have asked and haven't?
Yeah, man, you should ask me what's the temperature today.
Yeah, no, we're going to leave. We'll leave that one alone. It's actually a pretty nice day here, so I'm not too bad, but it's not like where you're at.
It's 75 degrees and a cool breeze, Yeah. Beach waves are beautiful today.
Yeah, God loves you more than me. I know.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So one question is, how can people know more about what God is doing in Puerto Rico? And for that is the world that we live in is smaller than we think. And the beauty of it is days like today, people that can hear this and maybe you don't know anything about Puerto Rico, but Puerto Rico is a commonwealth of the United States. And it's part of the United States, but it's
warm and it has great food. What else do you need to know?
Yeah, exactly. It's warm and it has great food. You can spend the American dollar here. Yeah. But it also has so much great need and so much opportunity to be a huge life. Puerto Rico is literally located between North America and South America. Most of the people on the island are bilingual, so we have such a huge importance and I mean, like I said, there's 3.5 million Puerto Ricans on the island. That's not to count how many Puerto Ricans have migrated literally throughout the world, and they're making impacts throughout the world because of their ability, their gifting, and just the joy that God puts in their hearts. So Puerto Rico is an amazing place to visit. So it's even with everything going on, all their scares of earthquakes and all that, that doesn't hold God back from doing amazing things. And the same thing is true for wherever people are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So where can our listeners connect with you online? I know you're on Instagram and other places. Where can people connect with you online?
Absolutely. Instagram at Pastor Juan Rodriguez, which is amazing that was available because Juan Rodriguez is like the John Smith, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But yeah, at Pastor Juan Rodriguez on Instagram. You follow the church, Arise Church Official. And also check us out on our website, arisepuertorico.com, arisepuertorico.com. And from there, you can link onto all our social medias.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for this, man. I'm so excited for you. So much insight that you've given us. Really appreciate you and really appreciate this time.
Awesome, man. Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing for the kingdom and bringing this topic up, because we need to hear this. The world needs Jesus, and we need to get after it.
All right, man. Appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Take it easy.
What a great conversation with Pastor Juan. What stood out to you, Tim?
There's so many things in that episode, but when he said, don't let your inadequacy limit you from the call of God on your life. Yeah. So many times we look at our faults and failures, what we don't have, not recognizing the things God's already placed in us.
It's so true. I mean, I don't know. I think that's not a new problem for us as humans. We see all throughout the Bible, characters everywhere.
Yep.
That listed for God. Moses did, Gideon did, Daniel, they all did, Joseph did, listed for God why they were the wrong choice or why God couldn't use them. But we often forget that God's pretty big.
Yeah.
He can...
He's got to figure it out.
In the Bible, he made a donkey talk. So,
right.
Hey, he can use a donkey. He can probably use us, I think. But yeah, a lot of times we focus on what we lack, and yet God takes our weaknesses, what Paul says, takes our weaknesses and turns them into a strength. Such a great
so awesome
reminder. And we have another great episode next week, and we encourage all of you to participate in these conversations. We don't want you just to watch or to listen to these podcasts without participating. We want to hear from you and what you're going through in your church and continue the conversation. So you can join us on social media. You can join us on Instagram, Facebook. Where else are we?
Just hit our webpage, gocast.ca as well.
Webpage. And next week we have a great conversation with Pastor Justin Beasley, who is the pastor of Hope City Church in Fredericton. And a great conversation. Here's a little snippet from next week's talk.
I guess our greatest strategy would be is just we're a church that is a church that brings people.
Right.
We'll use the phrase all the time, be a bringer. So, the Alpha Core is different. Like if you don't have a church that's bringing, then it doesn't matter sort of what you're doing. Also, we just decided when I stepped into leadership, I heard it said one time that our every day is someone's one day. And so my church knows, like, if I invite someone, like we treat this, we get together every weekend. We're always doing this, but someone this weekend, someone's husband, someone's kid, someone's, parent that they've been praying for, they said this weekend, hey, I'll go this one time. Yeah. And so just as a church and as a strategy or what, I guess it is. We just have decided that no, every time we're together, we're going to give people an opportunity to accept Christ, and we're going to be missional. Like, we're worshiping, we're doing our thing, but we're going to give people an opportunity. And so it has to be, well, I'll say it like this. Actually, it's more than strategy, it's culture.
All right, that's going to be so good. Our conversation with Pastor Justin Beasley. Join us next week at the same time, same place. Also, a reminder to you, Season 2 is coming March 1st. We're so excited for Season 2. We're going to be having conversations post-COVID and what the church is going to look like post-COVID. You're not going to want to miss that. See you next time.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of GoCast. We hope you feel inspired and better equipped to take your community for Christ. Make sure to subscribe to receive each new episode as it's released. Let's go and break the stat together.